Hello, welcome to Tanoa Talk with the Kavasseur. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I am the Kavasseur, Douglas LaRose, and am very happy to be with you today for this new episode of Tanoa Talk. I have to apologize. It's been a few weeks since I released one of these podcasts. Um, I think what I need to do in the future is just record a bunch of these at once, and then kind of keep a back stock of podcasts to release while I travel. Because yeah, I was in the UK and Ireland, and then this last weekend I was in Orlando for Kava Con. So it's been hard to keep up with content generation as I've been doing all this really cool Kava related work, which I'll eventually get around to talking about. But today, I really want to focus on Kava Con. The event happened on May 24th in Orlando, Florida, at the Crown Plaza Hotel. It was really good. I was pleasantly surprised at just how much fun Kava Con was, and being able to meet all these people that I've talked to over the past decades, and shake some hands of people that I've been meeting, just really looking forward to meeting, for forever. Like Darren at Twisted Roots, Lika Cooper from the Fiji Trade Commission in North America, um, the gentlewoman from Kava, Charles and Heidi from Kava and Kettlebells, Mike from the Kava Bar in Dallas. So many people. I'm forgetting names, and if I didn't mention your name, don't take that as an insult. There's just a long list of names that of people that I had been looking forward to meeting, and finally did get a chance to meet at Kava Con, and boy was it a good time. It was a pretty sudden Kava Con. You know, moving up to Kava Con, kind of building up to Kava Con over the months. I think beginning around February or so, maybe March. I was really skeptical about Kava Con being pulled off because these conventions. I've done conventions and conferences, basically my whole life, and they take anywhere from like 6 to 12 months to prepare, and and then to implement well. So to see this come together within a few months and then go off without a hitch, I thought was really impressive. A good combination of Willie, who was the founder of Kava Con and the one who put this whole thing together. A good combination of his extraordinary organizational skills and his push to bring this to a reality, as well as all of the people who participated, just being active Kava enthusiasts, Kava bar owners, Kava brand owners, coming with all this positive energy to this event, and really pulling it off. I'm gonna throughout this episode of the podcast, I'm gonna kind of talk about the floor and all the different Kava vendors that were there, some of my high level observations, and then the two panels that I participated in. I want to talk a little bit about my reflection on those. Um, so yeah, the event had platinum, gold, silver membership subscriptions for sponsoring, not subscriptions, sorry, sponsorships, and depending on the size of your contribution, you were able to get that gold, silver, or platinum level. So yeah, let me go through the different folks that applied for these levels of sponsorship. Notably, the Kava Coalition did not decide to sponsor KavaCon this year, though we did make a contribution to KavaCon. We didn't have a booth because we really felt like we wanted to these businesses, kava bars, to be able to highlight the different products that they're selling, And that being said, I think next year, Kava Coalition will likely have a full booth that we will man and get brochures up and signs up and be able to talk about the good work that the Kava Coalition is doing. Um, I really enjoyed being able to kind of just walk around the floor of the Kava convention throughout the day, and then obviously to go to the panels, which I spoke on, and wouldn't have been able to do that if Kava Coalition had a booth that I had to man. Um, but anyways, the platinum sponsors for the event were the Kava Social Club and Kava and Company, and these two sponsors were in the front of the convention, so there was kind of a separate room where you registered and got your tags, and your lay and all that kind of stuff, and then right next to that registration area were Kava Social Club and Kava and Company's booths, and they were really really active throughout the day. They were doing a lot of bulaing and selling a lot of kava and serving a lot of different mocktails and stuff. So that was really cool. And then as you entered the convention, if you went right, you would have found the kava ice cream booth, and I want to say, yeah, it's Route A1A. That's the name of the company, and they make this kava ice cream that I think for now only sells in Florida, but they had like a chocolate flavor and a vanilla flavor and a orange sherbet flavor, and they were just packed with kava lactones. So like a little tiny like one scoop of ice cream was like the equivalent of a shell of kava with kava lactones. So that was actually my breakfast was a bowl of ice cream from Route A1A, and I absolutely love talking to the folks that work there. I hope that one day their ice cream kind of sweeps the nation and gets to places like California, where I'm from. I would love to enjoy a bowl of kava ice cream on the beach in San Diego. That would be absolutely fantastic. Right next to that booth was Kava and Kettlebells. That's Charles and Heidi. And I had my flyers, the Kava Coalition flyers, sitting on the table at their booth, and I thank them for allowing me to kind of use it as a temporary kind of transient spot for me to be able to work from throughout the day. But they had a pull up bar and push ups, and they were encouraging people to be active, to be healthy, and obviously kava plays an important role within that health regime for some people, um, particularly people who stop drinking alcohol when they socialize and drink kava instead, which kind of suppresses the appetite, but also if you're not drinking alcohol as a result of drinking kava, then you're definitely shedding a lot of calories. So they had a platinum level, a gold level booth there at the front. Um, then moving forward from there, the next booth that I want to talk about that I really really probably the most impressive for me of the day was Amuse Kava. Amuse Kava comes in these little like sachets. They kind of look like tea bag sachets, but it's kava that it's an instant kava. Sorry, not an instant kava. It's a kava extract that's 300 milligrams and has natural flavors. So it's like a lemon lime type flavor, and it's sweetened with natural sweeteners that occur in some fruits, and it has some L-theanine in it. But it was like the most delicious kava beverage that I think I've ever tried. I mean, I've tried so many of hundreds of these things, like in cans and in like little like jars that like Paradise Kava used to sell. But this, if you put this on ice and mix it with water, it is just so delicious. And I had it was absolutely delightful meeting the owner or owners. I talked to them for 15 or 20 minutes, bought a box of their product to bring back to Baltimore with me, and I actually just had one of them. Like they're so delicious. It's Amuse, Amuse Kava, and absolutely wonderful people. Based in California, so it was cool to link up with a native, somebody from California that comes from the same area that I'm from. Kavahana was also there. They didn't have a booth, but she was milling around, and really enjoyed meeting her. And we actually uh, were along. She was along on the Kava bar crawl at the end of the night, and had a good chance to talk with her a few different times. Then another one that stood out to me, kind of walking down that same pathway or that side of the room, was Kava Barista. Kava Barista comes out of Idaho. Kava Barista does these really wonderful kava mocha mixes, and it's basically like a instant kava mixed with mocha flavors. And you mix it with warm water, and it makes this absolutely delightful drink. I meant to buy a bag. I forgot to buy it before I left, which was a bummer because I got back to Baltimore and like woke up the next morning and was like, oh shoot, I really, really wish I had some of that Kava Barista. So I'll have to go onto their website and put in an order for myself one of these days. Um, so then Lalo had a booth that I really enjoyed visiting. I've known the Lalo folks for a long time. I believe Weston was the name of the gentleman that I talked to. And they were giving out some of their samples of their drinks. And I think the last time I had a Lalo, I was in San Diego, and I was just driving around and stopped at a kava bar on the way to the grocery store and picked up a can of Lalo. So I didn't know that they had like eight different flavors now. So I tried some of the mocktail flavors and then some of the kava fruit flavors. So yeah, in between there was like Witch's Kava and Alchemist Kava and Luminade, which I never got around to trying. I meant to visit their booth, but I never got around to it. And then there were some of these like kind of apparel or lifestyle booths, like Bula Babes and exposed apparel. People selling T-shirts that were kava oriented. Some really clever ones in there. I didn't actually pick up any. I just got the standard Kava Con T-shirt that they were giving out to VIP members. So you're gonna notice that if you were there, you're gonna notice that I've skipped over a lot of the booths. I did not visit or try any of the Kratom products. I really wanted Kava Con to be about kava. So I mean, this is just one of like maybe two or three pieces of feedback I would give. I don't think that I don't have a problem with Kratom, and I don't want to see Kratom disappear or anything. But I really wanted KavaCon to be more focused on kava, and for the most part, it was. And like I said, like I just glowingly appreciate and really give eight out of 10 stars to the event itself. But I didn't really think that it was great to see just like full on Kratom booths set up that had no kava tie-in, like just pure Kratom branded products or Kratom products. So there was like a tea company that sells like a seltzer that's Kratom, that has Kratom in it. There was people selling Kratom powder, like in bags. There was another booth. I think the name of the booth is like Tom Yum or something, and they sold like Kratom in these kind of beer bottle looking things, and I was offered some, and I was like, no, I don't really do Kratom. I don't really partake in the Thai leaf. I have, again, nothing against it, but that was just one thing that I thought kind of interrupted the flow of the kava theme a little bit. And I'm probably one of the few lone voices in this criticism, so you can take it with a grain of salt. Similarly, like on the panels, one of the panels was about legislation and kava bars, and I spoke on that panel, and I was surprised how much the panel kind of kept going back to the topic of Kratom. My role at the Kava Coalition is really to try to help kava bars throughout the U.S. get legal status and try to protect themselves from state and county health department overreach. A lot of kava bars in places like New York, North Dakota, Nevada, Arizona, um, and elsewhere are really struggling as a result of county and state health departments coming after them and telling them that they can't serve kava. So I wanted to kind of more focus on that and talk about kava being being safe and all the research that the Kava Coalition is funding to show the safety of kava. But it was really more focused on the Kratom bill that was in Florida a few months ago that didn't pass. So I kind of veered the conversation when I had the opportunity back to the topic of kava, because that's kind of where I'm focused. So the floor was a pretty good size, and I'd say there were probably like 200 or 300 people milling around on the main floor. There was a pool outside where the some kava vendors put up, or some kava bars put up little stations where they were serving kava and doing bulas. There was also like a VIP lounge, which was actually the hotel's bar. Elevate Kava took over the hotel's bar, and they served some kalai from Vanuatu and some Solomon Islands kava, and I think they also served kratom. But I sat there at the bar and had a lot of really good conversations with people over shells of kalai and Solomon Islands kava. So that was really cool. And then behind that bar was another room where the panels were. So that's kind of like the layout of Kava Con. Kind of hard to picture in your head as I'm explaining it, I'm sure. But if you were there, hopefully the way I just described it kind of resonates. Oh yeah, and then Mitra 9 had a booth inside, which I never visited because it's like, again, like it's, to me it's very much a kratom kind of thing. So I didn't really mill around. Oh yeah, and then Tea Time was the other kratom seltzer that was being sponsored there. So the panels were, there were 3 panels. I only went to 2 of them. One of them was kind of, I think it was like at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and I had gone to have lunch with a representative from Fiji who was visiting to see the Kava Con. So I had dinner with him, and I think that panel was about health or something. I can't remember. But the 2 panels that I were on, they kind of like took up a big chunk of my day, and that's not at all a criticism. I really enjoyed being on the panels. As I get older, I think I'm being cursed with this desire to hear myself talk, and I'm sure to many people's dismay. But I had drinking a lot of kava. I was like properly bulad, so I had no anxiety getting up in front of the room and being on these panels. And as I alluded to before, the first one was about kava legislation and kava bars, and it went on for about an hour and a half, and that was moderated by Willie, and he did a really good job asking questions and keeping the conversation flowing, and then also doing a good Q&A. And the second panel that I was on was about community, culture, and inclusivity in kava bars, and that was a really interesting one. There was a gentleman from Kavasseur on that panel, and then there was another kava bar owner, and actually he's the owner of the kava bar that hosted the event at the end of the kava crawl that night, kind of where everything ended, and that was Novelty Kava Bar. And again, I'm pretty bad with names, but I saw him at the Kava Bar after the Kava Con, and he was on the panel, and he did a really good job talking about, well, him and Kavasseur did a really good job talking about the types of people that go into kava bars and the challenges that kava bars face, um, both in terms of legislation and culture and community and inclusivity. And it was cool. I mean, there was a lot of discussion about kava bars being important community spaces for people in recovery, safe spaces for women. I mean, especially when you compare a kava bar to a alcohol bar. I mean, it's just leagues and miles a better environment for a woman to be able to go and sit down and know that she's not going to get harassed by some dude, with vodka breath. There was some really, the room seemed kind of, I don't want to say divided, but of many different perspectives on issues with inclusivity at kava bars. Um, but Florida being a very conservative state, um, I was surprised at how much people embraced conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and was really pleased with that. And that's kind of another overall comment I would make is that the event itself, Kava Con, was super super focused on Florida, and I don't. That's not really a criticism; it's just an observation. But I'd say like a good 90% of the people there were either businesses in Florida or people coming from Florida to attend, with some notable exceptions. Like there were a lot of people that came from Dallas, the Dallas area. Really, really cool folks who own some different kava bars in Dallas, or manage some different kava bars in Dallas, and then the gentleman from Idaho who does the barista kava. So yeah, after that, there was a. I went to dinner, and then there was this kind of pause in the unfolding of things. But there was a kava bar crawl that started like around 7:30 to 8 at Elevate Kava Bar, and then from Elevate it went to Beans and Roots Kava Bar. And then from there it went to Kavasutra, Muddy Kava, Lay Kava Bar, and then it ended at the Novelty Kava Bar. So I was only able to hit like three of those, partially because I was late in getting started from dinner, but also it was just like the kava bars were kind of far apart. So um, I found some folks, Darren and Nick, and Mike, and we all packed ourselves into a car and we drove around and we hit up three different kava bars, and it was interesting. They were all super different, which was cool because I like seeing the different types of kava bars and getting to know what how different kava bars can be. I think it's something that people don't talk about enough. Is the kava bar scene is like super super diverse, and you have kava bars like the one in San Diego that I go to when I visit, the Kava Collective, which is really like a place where people in recovery go to hang out, and they have NA meetings and they do all kinds of social meetings there. But that's more of like a sober bar, and they really highlight that when you're there, and they talk a lot about like sobriety and 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 have different community events around sobriety. So Elevate, which was the first kava bar, had like very much like a coffee shop slash bar kind of feel to it. It was very busy. I don't know if that was because of the kava crawl, but there were a lot of people there that I think were also just regulars who were sitting down, drinking mocktails, drinking kava, drinking kratom. Um, we then went to Kava Sutra, the Kava Sutra bar there, and that was like on the way to Novelty. And I don't know, I've been to three or four Kava Sutras. They all have that same kind of vibe to them. Um, Nothing negative to say, but it was nothing really stood out about the Kava Sutra bar. It's a kava bar that kind of is what you expect it to be. Um, I will say that the night before, I went to a kava bar that served the worst kava that I've ever had, and that was right by the hotel. I'm not going to throw their name out there because I don't want to be disparaging, but they're one of the big kava bar chains, and I went there with Charles and Heidi and Mike, and we ordered some kava, and it it tasted like it was made like 3 days before. So I don't know. I mean, if you know me well enough, I advocate pretty strongly against keeping kava around. Like I think that kava bars and kava establishments or restaurants that serve kava, like you need to like serve your kava within like 12 hours of making it. Like I'm sorry, but that's just in 2025. We should all know this by now. Like kava does not age well. Like there's yeast in it, and that yeast doesn't matter what temperature the kava is. It's gonna bloom and infect that entire batch of kava with this sour sour taste. So I was really disappointed that anybody would serve kava that is sour and nasty like that. I didn't even finish the shell that I bought. I didn't want to get sick the night before Kava Con. But then before that, we went to Kava Cove, which was awesome. Adam was our kava tender, and he's like a big film buff, and was talking about the different events that they do at their kava bar. And that kava bar had its like own totally unique vibe from any kava bar I've ever been to. They were doing trivia night, but it was like just a really cool crowd. They had a pool table. Their theme was Hollywood and film and classical film, and they had music going and just really like really good vibes. Like probably the best vibes of any of the kava bars that I visited on this trip to Orlando. So finally, we ended the night at Novelty Kava Bar, which was super far from the convention center. I actually was staying at the hotel at the convention center, so when we finished at Novelty Kava Bar, it was like a good like 40 to 45 minute journey back to the hotel. But Novelty Kava Bar was awesome. It was absolutely packed. It was very diverse. Like they had this African American music ensemble playing, and just beautiful singing and dancing. Like a really good DJ, and they were selling empanadas in the back of the restaurant outside the back door. And their kava was excellent. I think I had 2 or 3 different offerings off the menu. One of them was just kava with coconut milk, and then the other one was like a peaches and cream kava, which I don't do a lot of the flavored kavas, but this was like really delicious. It tasted like mulled peaches, and really enjoyed it. So yeah, from there we ended the night. I mean, I think it was like maybe 12:30 to 1 a.m. and everybody was properly bulad. I had to get up early to fly back to Baltimore the next day, so so I went to bed a little early. I know that like some people stayed out until 4 or 5 a.m. At 43 years old, I tend to try to not do that as much. Unless I go to Boca Raton. When I'm in Boca Raton, I usually stay at the Kava Bar until like 3 or 4. But yeah, so Kava Con 2025, I would say like blew my mind how good it was, how successful it was. I had some doubts going in just because of the amount of time that there was to prepare for it. In retrospect, I think it would have been cool to have a Kava Coalition booth. But I'm also glad that we didn't have a booth, because I wouldn't have been able to mill around and meet everybody the way that I did. So yeah, let me know in the comments, or send me a message, and I can do a follow up episode, talking about other people's experiences, or maybe even inviting Willie or somebody else to come on and talk about their experience. I think this is going to be a yearly thing, based on the success of this iteration, and I wholeheartedly look forward to going to the next one. So yeah, that's Kava Con 2025 in a nutshell, or in a kava bowl. So so yeah, check it out. There's some pictures online going around of Kava Con. It happened. It was great, and I can't wait for it to happen again. And Bula to Willie, and Bula to everybody that had a chance to talk to me while I was in Orlando. It was absolutely a pleasure. And Bula to the Hula, Kavasseur out.